admired so much. And the speech that was his final speech before he voted against the repeal of Obamacare, he admonished the Senate, really. He said, we're getting nothing done, my friends. We're getting nothing done. And he didn't use that opportunity just to thank them for all of their support and the camaraderie over the years, but he really wanted to leave a strong message.
He did, and what he was talking about was very real. I mean, because partisanship really has increased in both the House and the Senate. The number of senators who have perfect ratings from one side or the other has increased. What really strikes me about this, to build on something Brett said, is how presidential this seems. This is a 5-day funeral, and we saw a couple of days in Arizona, and then we have coverage of the plane and the car, and now taking Senator McCain's body into the Capitol. This is very much treatment that you would see for a president. There's going to be a very big memorial service tomorrow at the National Cathedral. Finally, he'll be buried at the Naval Academy on Sunday. Has not been accorded to a lot of members of Congress. I counted 3 in the past 50 years. Daniel Inouye not too recently, Claude Pepper, and then Everett Dirksen in the 1960s. This is not something that is done very often.
Two-time presidential candidate. Chris, I saw the tribute on Fox News Sunday. I've interviewed him many times, but you've interviewed him a lot of times over the years. Your thoughts looking back and some of the funny moments. He could really needle you in interviews. I mean, really could.
Absolutely. We used to get, all of the Sunday talk show hosts used to get guff. Why does everybody keep putting John McCain on so often? The answer is because he was always at the center of the action. If you wanted to cover the news, more often than not, it involved John McCain. You're having a big fight over filibusters of Bush judicial nominees. John McCain started the Gang of 14, immigration, same kind of deal. Not to mention the fact that he ran for president in 2000 and 2008. I remember, I used to, I guess this is my custom, give him a pretty tough interview, and afterwards I have a guest book, and I have all of my guests sign it, and there's John Kelly, the White House Chief of Staff, and he would always sign and say, this is my favorite interrogation since I was in the Hanoi Hilton. But having said that, and he did get mad sometimes if he felt you would push too far. But you were in the doghouse, but not permanently. You were in the doghouse for a while, and then he'd get over it. He understood our role. And frankly, I think he loved our role. He liked answering questions, and he liked the give and take. And the thrust, as I said before, a battle not joined is a battle not enjoyed.
He also said in that speech that I referred to before, I've sometimes let my passion rule my reason, made it harder to find common ground because of something harsh that I said to a colleague. But as we've said this morning, the back and forth with the people who are gathered in this room right now in the Capitol Rotunda was what he relished, and he really felt strongly that the procedures of the Senate had been overrun, that there was a relationship between leadership and the administration over the past several years that had left them out of the process.
Well, he remembers a time that we're all old enough at this table to remember, but a lot of people are not, when Congress really protected its status as a separate and co-equal branch. And if you had someone like Robert Byrd, he fought more with the president of his own party than he did with his colleagues in the Senate of the other party, because he was protecting his role as senator and the body of the U.S. Senate and their role in governance. Now, senators believe they're working for if the president is of their party, that they're working for the leader of their party, and it's all a tribal team game. And John McCain remembers that time when it was about weighing in as a separate, co-equal, and as valuable branch.
As we wait, the family and friends filing into the Capitol Rotunda, let's get more on John McCain's life and career. Bill Bennett, former Education Secretary, host of the Bill Bennett Show podcast. He joins us from Bald Head Island, North Carolina. Bill, you heard us talking here on the panel, reflections of Senator McCain as you look at some of his Senate and House colleagues there getting ready for this ceremony. Your thoughts?
I mean, McCain-Feingold's unconstitutional. The gang of immigration bill, no go. No Guy Left Behind, something I know a lot about, no go. But it's fine. He wants to work across the aisle. That's okay. But what I don't see emphasized this week is John McCain, the conservative. The warrior, the guy who was always for military funding, always for projecting American power overseas, the guy who never gave up on the Iraq War, supported it all the way. So I think we need a little more balance on that. There was a conservative, a real conservative, John McCain, in that person.
And a lot of that came out during the 2008 campaign, and some of the media really hammered him for some of those things.
Absolutely.
Right. Go ahead.
Absolutely. But I think now you're seeing the emphasis, the other way, and I think the family is wanting it that way too. No invitation to Sarah Palin, no invitation to the president. They're whiting out a lot of John McCain's experience here in life.
He was gathered here. I want to play one of the. Indeed, he is. One of the sound bites from that last speech, which was really such a significant moment. Just to give everybody a moment to watch a little bit of this.
I had another long, if not as long, career before I arrived here. Another profession that was profoundly rewarding, and in which I had experiences and friendships that I revere. But make no mistake, my service here is the most important job I've had in my life.
Back to Bill Bennett. There is Roberta McCain, 106 years old, John McCain's mother. Just an amazing woman in her own right, and the person from whom a lot of people believe he got his maverick spirit, Bill.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's a tough guy and an independent guy. Have those stories out of Vietnam, his regard, his reverence for Bud Day. One of my favorite stories is, when he was very hard on himself, which he shouldn't have been. He said, I gave them too much. He gave a pseudo confession of error, but it was punctuated with a lot of winks and nods. But when they asked him the names of other officers who were bombing North Vietnam and Hanoi, he said, "Oh, sure, I'll give them to you. Forrest Gregg, Jerry Kramer, Bob Skoronski. You all know who they are? Somebody there does.
I do.
Packers offensive line.
The offensive line of the Green Bay Packers. Can I just say one thing, Bill? You say that they're whiting out some of his career, and it is interesting. There's some people, notably, who have not been invited, like Sarah Palin, like Donald Trump, like some members of the 2008 campaign, like Nicole Wallace and Steve Schmidt. John Weaver. It strikes me they aren't doing anything. That was John McCain. Nobody told them to take those people out. John McCain planned this funeral, and it's interesting that he didn't want them here.
Yeah, no, I think this is how he is choosing to be remembered, and that's his choice, that's his decision. But all I'm saying is that a man big enough to be a hero to an age is big enough to have the truth told about him, and the truth is complicated when it comes to John McCain, both in his personal life and his professional life.